Hey, Ashkai, bro. How's it going? You good? Hope everything's been great for you and you've been having a good time and enjoying yourself so far. Welcome. Here's a new video for the kids. I'd appreciate it. Like, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the bell too. Turn it on so whenever I upload a new video, you get the notification right away and can check it out. Enjoy it and have a blast. So a lot of you guys actually don't know how to buy your system or its parts so that everything is compatible, works smoothly, and you don't get any errors, and all the components work well together. And it can really deliver the quality or performance you want, whether you're working with certain programs, gaming, or doing live streams on Twitch or YouTube. So it gets the job done without giving you trouble, crashing, or causing other issues. Unfortunately, a lot of people who assemble computers or recommend them to you either don't know what they're doing, or honestly, they just don't care about the money you're spending and the device you want. Guys, this video might get a bit long, but I promise I'll definitely upload the other parts for you. Especially for live games, whether it's Call of Duty or Fortnite or any other games where performance or FPS is way more important to you than quality, so you don't experience lag while playing, or stuff like that. The first thing you guys need to keep in mind is this. Let's see. For example, when you go and buy an Asus laptop or a Sony, all the parts are matched together, so it doesn't crash or anything like that. That's actually why, as they say, there aren't any issues in between, because the brand is expensive for a reason. The parts they put in those laptops have already been tested. But then there are other off-brand options you might buy, and sometimes you run into crashes or other issues. For example, the RAM might have a lower read speed, or it might not even be compatible with the CPU at all, or other parts. So you really need to pay attention when buying other laptops, or even when building a desktop PC at home. This is the first thing they say, guys. You really have to be careful and make sure you do your research. Check to see if the power supply can actually provide the power your system needs. Or whether it's the RAM, the CPU, or the graphics card, you really need to pay close attention to that. And something really important that people always mention, guys, for example, let's say I have a system. It's got a Core i7 or a Core i5 from the 7000 series, or maybe even something else. But for example, in games like Fortnite, Apex, or Call of Duty, even with a CFB3, their graphics card is a 3060 or maybe a 3080, and they have a monitor that can do 180 Hertz or can handle 180 frames per second, but they're only getting 40 frames per second. Unfortunately, back in the day when programs or games came out, they were CPU based, and at that time, the graphics cards, back then, there was nothing like what we have now, where you could say, for example, NVIDIA, Asus, the 10, 20, 30, 40 series, and so on. Even now, with the 50 series out, back then, everything was CPU based. That means the CPU was doing all the heavy lifting for the system. Then, little by little, as things advanced, and graphics companies, like the big one, NVIDIA, came in and started providing graphics, and games started to appear. Things shifted toward being graphics focused, meaning that quality, that sharpness, the FPS, or anything else you needed in your game would come from your graphics card or GPU. For example, if you tried to run a game like Counter-Strike, your system might be fine, but you didn't have a graphics card, then you'd get an error, like a DirectX error or maybe DLL errors that were specifically related to the graphics card. Basically, it was telling you that you needed to have a dedicated graphics card. Now, because most games have become online and, so to speak, battle-based, like Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, Apex, or other games like Dota 2 or Warcraft, most of these, because so many people use cheats with them, software, or even with other components, they've brought games back to being CPU-based. So basically, the game's performance load is now on the CPU, but the sharpness, FPS, and making sure you don't experience lag is now handled by the graphics card, or GPU in reality. With just a GTX 1080 graphics card, you can easily get normal quality and You can have really normal and good performance, but if your CPU is, for example, a Series 5 or 7, if it's in the 6000, 7000, or 5000 series level, you'll see that you only get like 20 FPS, maybe 30 FPS. Even though, for example, there are people who are outside of Iran playing the game, all of them. Let's say with the internet they have, their ping is really low, like 10, 15, 20, or even 30. But they still see, for example, that the enemy shot them and just passed by. They have to realize all of this is because of the FPS you're getting. 20, 30, 40, 50, unfortunately. In pretty much any game, if your FPS is below 50, you really can't play because the game lags and it just messes with you. The enemy shoots you and just moves on. So seriously, guys, you really need to make sure, whether it's for a program, a game, or even streaming, that you have at least a motherboard and CPU from the 9000 series or newer. Because right now, Intel's X series has come out worldwide. AMD has made great progress, and if you want to get a new series, if you go for anything below the 9000 series, you just won't get that killer performance that the latest systems offer. Now, if you want to see how you can match up those parts or figure out how to get them, there's a website you can use. You can search for a site called pc-built.com. And when you go there, once you're on the site, it'll show you something like this, where it says the exact system you want. Here, you can tell it what you want, so you can see, for example, how this device works or how much power supply it needs. For example, here I can check out the AMD series. It's laid out nicely for you, and as we scroll down, you'll see. Then the Intel series starts from the 10,000, 14,000, 12,000 series, like Core i7, Core i5, and so on. For example, if I want to search within Intel, I can type in Core i. Let's say, for example, the 7 series. Let's focus on the 9000 series. Here, you should select the Core i7 9700K series, and then, for example, what could your graphics card be? For instance, I'll pick a pretty basic graphics card from the series. For example, take a look at the 1080, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 Ti, which is kind of like the 1080 Super. It becomes clear, then it says, the video game you want to use or play, for example. What could it be? Look. For example, here it says Call of Duty Warzone, and then it mentions the monitor you have, your monitor. That's actually a really important part. At the very least, it should be 100 FPS, or 100 Hz or 120 Hz. For example, here it's telling you what the resolution of your monitor is. I, for instance, select 1920 by 1080, Full HD 1080 pixels. Then I select it so it can run a test for me to see how it works. Look, here it's listed the specs up top and there's no error. It hasn't given any errors, meaning these specs are completely normal. And when you scroll down, guys, you'll see here it's telling you, for example, in the game Call of Duty Warzone, with the system you've selected, if you set everything to very, very, very low, you'll get up to 161 FPS. See, when you set the maximum FPS, meaning you lower the resolution and all the graphic settings, you get more FPS. Look, it gives you 161.6 FPS. But when you set it higher, look here, low, medium, high, and ultra, when you set it to ultra, it gives you really good graphics, really sharp visuals. It gives you 91 FPS. And as you can see, guys, there's no error here at all. So with these settings, this system clearly shows us, guys, that these specs, it's all good. And when you scroll down, guys, you'll see it explains all of this to you. Your minimum FPS, your medium FPS, and your maximum FPS. And again, you can see here all the specs we entered are clearly shown. And guys, if you scroll down even more, when you scroll down, you'll see it's all clearly explained here. Look, they've laid out the performance details. Can you see everything here? Right here. They've explained it to you with charts and written details. And as you scroll further down, let's see what else there is. Because here it says, for example, if you have a minimum of 4 GB of RAM, see how much FPS it gives you? Here, if you have between 8 and 16 gigabytes. Check out how much FPS you get. And when you have between 16 and 24 gigabytes of RAM, look at this. Again, see how much FPS it's giving you? I mean, this site really lays it all out. Take a look at all these components. It breaks it down for you one by one, piece by piece. It explains everything for you up above, so when you come here, it shows you the RAM section, and for example, if you have a certain amount of RAM, it tells you what kind of quality you'll get. See? Here, it says 16 gigabytes RAM, 32 gigabytes RAM, and 128 gigabytes RAM, and so on. When you look here again, up top, it brings in all the specs that we entered ourselves over there. It says that right now, it's showing you the specs for 16 gigs of RAM, and right here, you guys can come and see, it lists all these games here and tells you how much RAM each one needs. Like Call of Duty needs 8 gigs, Fortnite 8 gigs, Valorant 8 gigs, Cyberpunk 8 gigs. It explains all of this to you guys. What parts you need, what quality it gives you, what FPS you get, music, and all that. You can find all of this on this website. Alright guys, one of the brands that's really famous is the Be Quiet brand, which is a really good brand, and I'm honestly very satisfied with it. And on the BeQuiet.com website, if you go to the calculator section, it tells you about the hardware you have, and here it asks me how much I should calculate, how much power supply you need. So in the CPU section, I say my CPU brand is Intel and its model. Actually, it's the 1151 model. The CPU itself is a Core i7, which I showed you on the previous site for the other components. I showed you there, and here we select the same one, Core i7, 9700K. And here it asks for the model, so I set it to normal mode. Here, guys, it asks how many graphics cards you have and what model, because some motherboards can support more than one graphics card. So I select that I have one graphics card. It's from the NVIDIA brand, and the model is the same as what we entered on the previous website. I select the 1080 Ti, which is right here now. I think it's here, a bit lower, the 1080. Yeah, the 1080 Ti again here, where it asks you to select the exact model. So now, just pick the exact version that's available. Here it asks if it has USB-C or USB 2.0, and we say yes. And here, guys, the chips we added, like the SATA port, RAM, and the M.2, which is now the new type of hard drive. For example, I say that I have one SATA, 2 RAM slots, and one M.2. Here it asks how many fans we have and how many water coolings. For example, I say on my case, there are 4 fans, 1 water cooling with 1 pump, and 2 fans below. So I go and select this to search for me what I need. For example, guys, in the Dark Power Pro version 13, here it says 1,300 watts and 1,600 watts. And, well, if you use it a lot, you can use this one. And it automatically selects the best one, the specific one that's perfectly optimized for your device, and then it basically proceeds to inform you that everything is good. You can go with the Dark Power 13 model. When you look at it, you need to check all those cables that are supposed to deliver power to things like your hard drive or, SATA devices, or even the motherboard itself. You'll see that they're all socketed. Here it says that the Dark Power 13 750 watts is totally satisfying for you, and you can go with this one. Further down, guys, you'll see the difference between the one I mentioned that's socketed, which is this one, and these others. Look, its price is also lower. Plus, all the cables come attached, so you have to deal with organizing all those cables yourself. You have to put them somewhere in your case. But when you get this model, it's much easier. You can just connect the cable you need to your power supply and use only that cable. And keep going from there. Now you can use it for your motherboard, your SATA drives, or your graphics card. So guys, this is the website where you can see what kind of power supply you need, and here you can set your own filters, and here are the specs that, as I mentioned, I selected. And here you can, for example, You can choose, for example, to have it be completely silent with no noise at all, and you can also select the price. And now here you have the options for the price, and you can choose which form factor you want, whether it's ATX or TFX, and it lists all the cables for you. You can make your selection without any hassle. With or without cables, right here guys, you can easily choose that option. You can pick the power supply that fits your system's needs, and there's a website. There's also another site, guys, so you can, for example, check out a device you want to buy. If you want to buy something secondhand, you can see what specs it has and are those specs accurate and is everything fully compatible? You can go to the website userbenchmark.com and there's a free app there. You can just click on free download and get it. Then, one by one, you can check your CPU, GPU, SSD, or HDD, your motherboard, or your RAM, and even the USB devices you have connected. You can check those too, whether it's a USB Bluetooth adapter, Wi-Fi dongle, mouse, or keyboard. And if, for example, you want to buy a used system and you don't have an internet connection to search for it, or if you have this program, you can easily search for it in your Windows search bar. Just type in Mixed Reality Portal. Here, I'll search for it again. Just type Mixed and it'll show up for you automatically. When you click on it, a page like this will open up. And at first, you just need to click through a few next buttons until it shows you the main specs that are connected to your motherboard. Look, when I click back, you can clearly see here that it tells me my graphics card is an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 6GB. Here, it also shows my graphics driver, or the program that's installed, and its model, and my CPU is a Core i5 6600, which runs at 3.5 GHz. My RAM is 16 GB, and it also shows the storage that's currently on my device and how much is free. And the ports on my device are all USB 3.0. And my device doesn't have Bluetooth. And guys, pay really close attention because you can even use just Windows itself. Here, you can see the main specs of your hardware components. Because a lot of people out there want to sell their components. They actually go into, so to speak, the computer properties. And in the device manager section, people come here, guys, and unfortunately, they change the name of their graphics card. For example, my graphics card is 10.66. Now, with some programs that are out there, which I don't even need to explain, they come here and change it to say 20.60, 30.60, or 40.60. You see it here in Properties and Device Manager. You see it and go, wow. For example, 30.60, 40.60, and then they charge you a ridiculous price. So it's really, really important, guys. Don't just rely on the Properties and Device Manager. Don't just rely on this property section. I've definitely told you, make sure to test with this user benchmark program if you have internet access, and you can. Put this program on a USB flash drive and keep it with you. So if you want to buy a system, even if it's new or used, you can test it with this program. If you guys don't have that program, you can search for it in your Windows search bar. Music, Mixed Reality Portal. Click on it. The program opens, you just hit next a few times and it starts. The scan takes at most 5 seconds and it shows you all the main specs of the device without any changes. It even shows you the graphics card software you wrote, so guys, be really careful. Don't let anyone take advantage of you. Definitely use these tips, and I'll say it again. All those parts that are really important to you, like the power supply that provides electricity for your device and CPU, at the very least, get something that lets your device handle a lot of tasks efficiently, so you can get things done and enjoy it. Thanks for sticking around till the end of the video, guys. I hope it was helpful for you. If you have any problems with your computer or even with programs, make sure to mention them in this video. Leave me a comment below this video, bro. And by the way, definitely join the Telegram channel and Discord, and make sure to follow as well. Because a lot of the stuff, like programs or things I want to share for you to use, I upload over there. Thanks, I'd really appreciate it if you guys comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell, everything, so that whenever I upload a new video, you'll see it. Enjoy yourselves, and remember, first, write your name in style, second, try to stay healthy, And third, you know you're my loves. Until the next video, goodbye.